How do I experience true joy in my life today? Let's find out on the Pulse. One of the most confusing paradoxes in all the Bible to me is the book of Philippians. Paul wrote this book to the church at Philippi to build them up, to encourage them, to tell them how much he loves them. A lot of people say that this is the most joyful book in all the Bible. But Paul wrote this from a place where not a lot of joy can usually be found. He wrote this book as he's sitting in a prison cell. He has been arrested for preaching the gospel, and he has refused to stop preaching, and so they arrested him. Yet he found a way to not let his current position affect his posture. This isn't the first time he was like this. In the book of Acts, he gets arrested with a buddy of his. It says at the midnight hour in this jail cell, they start worshiping the Lord. How was he able to push past his current situation and still have joy in the Lord? Well, I think we find some clues for this in the first chapter of his book to the Philippians. If we start in verse 3 of the first chapter of this book, I think that he's left us some clues about how to find joy in our life today. Let's start in verse 3 of chapter 1. He says, I thank my God in all my remembrance of you, always in every prayer of mine for you, all making my prayer with joy, because of your partnership in the gospel from the first day until now. What's the first step to finding true joy in your life today? You remember what God has done for you in your life. Have you heard the saying that if you're having trouble getting to sleep, that you need to start counting sheep? My mom used to tell me, instead of counting sheep, why don't you start counting blessings? Why don't you start counting the things in your life that you're thankful for, that you're grateful for what God has done for you, what he's given you? And I found that the more I started counting blessings, the littler the blessings got. But I was still just as grateful for them as I was for the big things. I would start thanking God for the blanket that was covering me. I would thank God for my pillow. And I found that when I'm grateful, that gratitude is a seed for joy. Some might say that it's even a gateway drug to joy, being grateful, remembering what God has done for you. And after you remember what God has done for you, you start looking forward to what God is going to do. Paul puts it this way in verse 6. And I am sure of this, that he who began a good work in you will bring it to completion at the day of Jesus Christ. I don't know about you, but when I think about Radiant Church, there's so many things to look forward to what God is going to do. We're just over a year away from being on the land on 25 Bypass, the land that God has promised us from day one. Just seeing that God finishes what he starts. I think where we fall short in this area trying to find joy is we think that God finishes what we start. But God is not obligated to finish what we start. He finishes what he starts. So look at your life and see what God has put in your life. What has he surrounded you with that he wants you to find joy in today? And look at that thing he's put in your life and start seeing what God can do in the future with that if you put your joy in him today. Not only do we remember what God has done, not only do we look forward to what God is going to do, but we also love what God is doing right now in our lives. Verse 7 through 11 says, It is right for me to feel this way about you all, because I hold you in my heart, for you are all partakers with me of grace, both in my imprisonment and in the defense and confirmation of the gospel. For God is my witness, how I yearn for you all with the affection of Christ Jesus. And it is my prayer that your love may abound more and more with knowledge and all discernment, so that you may approve what is excellent, and so be pure and blameless for the day of Christ, filled with the fruit of righteousness that comes through Jesus Christ to the glory and praise of God. Love what God is doing in your life right now. You know why? Because when joy becomes a habit, when you are habitually remembering what God has done for you, and you're looking forward to what God is going to do in your life, when that joy becomes a habit, then love becomes a reflex. He says that it is my prayer that your love may abound more and more. May the people of this world know that we are disciples of Jesus because of our love. Love what God is doing in your life right now. And if you're having a hard time finding something good that God's doing in your life, I have a solution for you that might seem backwards, maybe even a little counterintuitive, but I promise you it works. If you're having a hard time seeing what God is doing in your life, try celebrating what He's doing in someone else's. Man, churches are being planted all over America every day. There are unreached people groups on the other side of the world that heard the gospel for the first time today. God is working all over the world. And even though you might not feel like there's a lot of good in your life right now, if you start finding the good in someone else's life, if you start finding the good somewhere else in the world, find somewhere where God is working and celebrate it. I promise you that joy is going to start welling up inside of you, and it is going to start pouring out in the way that you love other people. So how do you find true joy in your life today? You remember what God has done. You look forward to what God is going to do, and you love what God is doing right now. Boy, I love what God is doing in Radiant Church right now. We meet every Sunday at 10 a.m. at 15 Crane Avenue, Greenville, South Carolina, where we have amazing fellowship, worship, and teaching of the scriptures. We hope to see you this Sunday. I hope you're having an awesome week. God bless all of you. We love you.